Is dancing with death? It's called struggling, not dancing. Don't make it poetic. Would you recruit Valdo Reaper now? Yeah, I would. At least to test them out, right? I'm not sure who to throw out for him, but if I would get a Valdo Reaper, I would recruit him and just test him. He got Valdo Reaper now have. So Valdo Reaper used to be the unit which is very bad, and the only one of the Valdo units you would never recruit basically. All the other ones were very good, even for their double wage. But Reaper felt really bad if you rolled it on a Fortress. Like you take a Valda Fortress and then you get a offer the Reaper and you're just sad. But now he got 3 buffs. He got 3 new traits. It's First Strike, Preemptive Strike, and damn, what was the other one? First Strike, Preemptive Strike, and Projectiles Blocker. Yeah, thank you. And he got very good. I mean, he would be better with Deflector, but Blocker is good enough most of the time. So, also First Strike, you can do pushing crits more reliably. He can be more in the ways of a bounty hunter, who can deny attacks and stuff. He still has Engaging Strike, which is very good against Forsaken, if you can get him on net too. He's just overall very good, I think, with those 3 buffs. What is your quick hot take on Forsaken? Basically just a mid-tier faction. Um, Forsaken are very cool. They take a lot of getting used to. I expect everyone to be very taken afoot. Is that how you say it? Like, be taken by surprise the first time you play against them. Just because they came at the same time as the Lightfoot changes, where the AI actually uses Lightfoot to swap around a lot, and um, they don't feel. So they have this problem, right? Where they should be a late faction, like a late game faction, because of their mechanics. They have a lot of stuff going on with like Forsaken Wrath, buffing each other, then you need to separate them, but they clump up naturally, and then they have Lightfoot and they focus fire, and it's just, if you go from Scavengers to Forsaken, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially if you're new to the game or newer to the game. So the transition from Scavenger to Swampers is more natural. But if you get Forsaken later on into the game, they get too out of hand, I think, with their focus fire and stuff. You cannot control them very well if you don't have hard CC. So um, they are a mid-tier faction right now, but they are actually very scary, especially on net 2 if you get later into the game. Right now, an Elite Berserker hits for 500 twice. And for reference, 500 is... I have 1200 HP. I have 1000 HP. So he actually one-shots him. Nah, he has armor. Alright, I lied. But he one-shots him. Almost kills him. Not quite kills him. One-shots him. So, Elite Berserkers scale very well. They are just not good on your end. Because you cannot sustain the hit they receive from Berserker Duelist. But DAI doesn't care. They just smirk you really hard and kill you. They don't care if they lose people. So it's very good on them. So they scale very hard. So this is why you cannot push them back further into like 3rd or 4th zone or something. But they feel like a late game faction to play against. I like them a lot, but it's gonna be really hard to get used to them, I think. That they scale very hard? Yeah, exactly. The most fun faction to fight against? Yeah, they're super fun to fight against. If you actually get there, like, if you actually get into the flow of it, if you actually manage to, to figure out what they do and how to play against them, they're very fun. Because it's a positional thing. Against Swampers, you have Swamper, Spearman, and Poison, right? And you fight against that. And this is like your your 2-step program you do against Swampers. And while it's different, it's not the same way different as Forsaken. Because against Forsaken, you have no single thing. which makes it both harder to get used to, but also more fun to play against. You don't have like this thing that you need to avoid, like specifically like poison or something, or like this one unit that taunts you or something like that. That doesn't really exist. You need to be better at positioning. You need to be better at separating them and like predicting the movement with Lightfoot, like stuff like that. And it's very hard to do this in the beginning, but it's more fun. It's like more skill oriented, I would say. So I like that. Very cool faction. Needs some balancing. Greatsword scaling is kinda insane, not gonna lie. Yeah. Vampire Lord Guide, A. I didn't forget. Um, Greatsword scaling is kinda insane. Yeah. I think the weapon scaling in general is kind of off. Like it's a bit overtuned. Especially greatswords. And also like the jumps. Like the map 1 is such a joke now. Because everyone is wearing iron weapons. I think every 15 levels, uh, the NPCs they jump it to a higher tier of weapon. So at level 1, they start with an iron weapon. And then at level 15, they jump to a steel weapon. And then at level 30, they jump to a silver weapon, and so on, right? So they get a huge jump in damage. But for the first 15 levels, basically the whole of map 1, they only have iron weapons, and maybe at the end some steel. So their damage is super low, and like map 1 is such a joke right now. I think something needs to be done about that. Um, and you get better weapons all the time, right? If you think about map 1, you just do a mission and you get like a silver weapon. Like just like that, or like a rare steel or whatever. Or like you get a legendary. And you just outsmart them really hard. Any suggestions for balancing? I don't know. Not really. um, I think I think iron weapons need to be tuned up. Those are the ones that you don't really use as the player, but the NPCs use it for 15 levels. So I think iron weapons need more base damage. They're also the only ones who didn't get affected by the weapon rebalancing, because only the higher tier levels got plus 30% base damage, right? Or something like that. I don't know the exact percentage, but from steel upwards, every tier got bumped up by a certain percent, but the base damage from iron is still the same. So I think iron should be higher damage, and I also think greatsword should be lowered. Like greatsword is out of hand. Could happen in 10 levels instead of 15. Hmm. Yeah, maybe, but I still think iron should be bumped up a little. Maybe you could combine the two. Like you could do from iron to steel in 10, and but I would like it if there was more gradual ways, right? If you could like, I would like it more if they get every 3 levels they get like a rare upgrade. Like they go from iron to rare iron to legendary iron to steel to rare steel to legendary steel. Like every like 3-4 levels or something. By the way, there is rare and legendary iron in the game. It's just not obtainable. And you should have like iron and steel plus weapons and give them plus ones in each level. Yeah, that's also an option, right? Like you have those weapon smith upgrades, where they can go from weapon -2 up to +5. So you can also give them like +1 every 2 levels or something, right? So they scale gradually, and there's more scaling in that one. But I still think like the base damage itself on just iron weapons, not the other ones, should be bumped up just a little bit, like 10%, 20%, something. Alright. So Savagery redeemed something. By the way, this is where I'm gonna stop with fighting. I'm just talking about the game a little, because I have some stuff to talk about. And after that, I'm gonna do some don't stuff together with Savagery for an hour or something. Or maybe 2. And he's gonna jump in here with me. And we're gonna have Discord open. And talk a little. So he redeemed an over-explain when I still had this option. If you check the channel points now, I took this option out. But he redeemed it before. And he wanted Vampire Lord's explain. Sadly, I don't have any Vampire Lord saves. Like, all of the previous saves are broken, because it's a previous version. And I don't have any Vampire Lords here. Like, so I can only talk about them. I cannot really showcase it. 4, not A. Yeah, you received 4. It's true. Savage Cola? Hell yeah. um, so what do we want to know? Do you have any specific problems? Like how to build them, how to play with them? Like what's like how to play against them? What do you want to know? So Vampire Lords are let's go to the menu. If we start a new one with vampires here, this is Vampire Lord, this guy. If you're not familiar, there are 3 vampire units: Vanquisher, Vampire Lord, and the normal vampire. And then there's Lesser Vampire, the green ones, which you transform into if you transform into Vampire. But Vampire Lord is generally the strongest. So we can see it, yeah. How to combo. You need heavy focus build, then you sacrifice damage for it. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. So the way you build Vampire Lords, especially after the weapon changes. So the weapon changed in a way that strength is now only 2% instead of 4%, and Greatsword base damage is way higher. So you actually don't need as much strength anymore. It has like kind of the same impact as before if you level strength, but you start at a higher base. So everything else that multiplies with this base damage is also more effective, which means you can rely less on strength and more on other things, like Lyncher Slaughterer combo. So Lyncher is damage is increased by 10% when your focus reaches maximum. The way Vampire Lord works is mostly with a focus build. So you get double strikes a lot from Furious. Furious is you swing too fast and you get double strikes every time you use maximum focus. And it's even better than double strikes because it does not require stamina. If you don't have the 40 stamina, you just lose 15% current HP instead, which is fine because you're gonna heal for a bunch anyways. So you also have Slaughterer, which gives you like a flat damage increase based on your focus. So the more focus you have, the more percent damage you get. You have like 50% of your focus bar is filled, you get 50% more damage. And just think about a greatsword, right? You need what? You get 2% damage increase per point in strength. So let's say you have 10 points in strength, you get 20% more damage. You have 20 points in strength, you get 40% more damage. For Slaughterer, you very often get in the high end of damage increase. Like you're like half full or something on focus, you get 50%. That's like 25 points in strength. Lyncher is 10% damage increase every time you reach maximum focus. So every time you reach maximum focus bar, you gain 5 strength. So every turn you basically reach 1 full focus bar. A second one is not really obtainable because you get a big malus after you complete your focus bar the first time in your turn. So you can only get 1 full bar each turn. But every turn you gain basically 5 strength is how you can look at Lyncher. So this makes speccing into focus very strong, very viable. They used to have lifesteal strike, which was better with improviser. Now you need another sort of lifesteal, I think. To concentrate, yeah, he now has concentrate. They became even more OP late game. It's true, yeah. How do you heal with Vampire Lord? Um, it changed. So first, when I played them, they had Lifesteal Strike. So I would just give him Improviser. So he would always have Lifesteal Strike active, and he would like provide the whole group with Lifesteal Strike. It's no longer possible. Concentrate is still very strong. I would still give him Improviser, because Concentrate lets you uh, go to one full focus bar every turn very easily, and you want to have it active all the time. Maybe you don't need Improviser actually, because it's for 3 turns and you gain 1 every turn. Um, Nah, you don't need it. You could consider fast tinkering it to get it faster up, but you don't really need that either. I think I would drop Improviser. So you either want a Greatsword with Blood Curse. Outside of that, not really sure. He doesn't crit very often. Like, he's not a crit build. It depends a bit on his strong versus. Maybe he crits more often. You can give him Revitalizer. The problem is Revitalizer is very expensive and it's very hard to build. But if you can give him that, he's golden. Like, he heals to full all the time. You can also give him Feast as like a bridge. Feast isn't very good on him, but it like gives you some sustain in the early game and like map 1 and map 2. Until you find something better. You really want a Blood Curse Greatsword, to be sure. If you cannot find that, then you can also go for... I think you can just keep Revitalizer, honestly. Just level it to 10. Eventually it will be very good. That's probably the prime option, if you can afford it. And then there's Blood Frenzy, but Blood Frenzy isn't really worthwhile. Strike an additional time after your normal attack. It activates if at least 3 enemies are bleeding. You cannot really keep this up. Whenever you bleed someone on your own, you usually kill them. If 3 enemies are bleeding, there's usually bleeding spikes on the map. Like, that's it. Or you have allies who bleed on occasion or something. You don't really run them with other vampires that bleed. Yeah, but that's way enough, right? You build them with enough vitality to survive. Urtuk Vampire Lord is very strong. If you go Vampire Start, you always go Vampire Lord Urtuk. He can roll ridiculous focus things like Mind of a Genius, 25 concentration. That's 25. That's 7, 8 free levels. It's ridiculous. He can roll Fast Thinker, which would be nice with Concentrate to get it rolling on the first turn. He can roll Delirium, of course. A bunch of stuff. Like, basically everything is very good with Vampire Lord, because he makes very good use of all the focus stuff. He doesn't really like quick reflexes and flagrant that much, but who does, outside of Berserker stuff. So yeah, always go with Vampire Lord Urtuk. And then, as usual, you level enough vitality to survive. And then you go into breakpoints for stamina. I would go to 82 at first, and then throw everything in concentration, as much as you can afford without dropping too low in vitality. It also depends a bit on what you find, right? Do you find a strong body early? Can you absorb it? Or do you have an absorption already? He has Lightfoot by default, which is nice, so he doesn't need that. He probably needs Stalwart if he ever wants to fight something like Forsaken. You can also have Stalwart as a flex option though. If you find a great strong body early, probably worth absorbing. Then it also depends, do you find like a Giant's Heart or not, right? Do you find an Absorbed Life or not? Do you get an Immortality or like, or do you get a Reflexive Skin? Like, what are your relics like? Or do you just gain a damage relic or whatever? It depends a little bit on the game as well. But usually, he always wants Flesh Eater level 10. Flesh Eater level 10 is probably the best absorption in terms of min-maxing, as always. but it's not. I wouldn't recommend it because it gets online too late for him. You need a level 10 Flesh Eater, and then you need to absorb it 45 combats. I wouldn't do it. I would do it with Strong Body because you get Strong Body very early. Flesh Eater can take like a long time until you get one. Then of course you throw all your life stones on it, but it still takes a long time to get it started. Legion crits would heal for a ton. You could Legion crit an Action Man build, or use a million bear traps. You mean for bleeding? I mean, I guess, but I would rather just... I guess that would work early, when the hunter doesn't do anything else. But eventually later on, I would just use my stamina on the hunter to actually kill things also. Not support the Vampire Lord in bleeding to get him one more attack. Like, you throw 3 taps for a million stamina to get him one more attack. And then they only bleed for 2 turns, right? So you have to kind of time it and I don't know. Do you get Brilliant Minded start for it? It's an option. I think Soma likes to do that. I don't really like it, just because it costs a bunch of HP, and you actually level Vitality. So you actually pay for the points in... Like, 30 points is a lot, don't get me wrong. But you actually pay for the points you save in Focus by leveling Vitality a bunch. And Vampire Lord is one of the ones where it actually matters how much max HP you have, because he doesn't have any armor. He doesn't have other defenses. He's bloodless at least. But your healing largely depends on max HP also if you go Revitalizer route. So I wouldn't really do it. I would consider Mind of a Cleric probably, if I don't find anything else. I would go Flesh Eater, Random Relic, Absorb Strong Body, and go Revitalizer or something. I would drop Revitalizer if I find a good Greatsword with Blood Curse. It depends a bit on the Greatsword mutator I get later on. But yeah, Action Man could be a thing. Action Man is only 1 crit. Yeah, I could see that happening. Yeah, could be good. Brilliant Man is good but risky. Yeah, I wouldn't do it on Vampire Lord. How do you farm for Strong Body? You don't really farm it. You only get Strong Body from map 1 bosses. So, map 1 bosses only appear in Bandits hideouts. And then every Bandits hideout leader, this is the Scavenger Chieftain, has Strong Body. And it's extractable. It's still a chance if it drops or not. But basically, just take every Bandits hideout fight you can. And usually you get 1 or 2 per run, depending on how heavily you farm map 1 or not. You don't need it. Like, if you are ready to go to map 2, and you would have to spend like 50 days or something stupid like that staying on map 1, I wouldn't do it. I would just go. You can replace it with something else. Maybe you get a relic or something, maybe you get a Giant's Heart. You just absorb something else. Like absorb Action Man, or absorb level 10 Flesh Eater eventually, right? If you find it early, or whatever. You could kill, guarantee the Strong Body if you only kill the Chieftain, but that's hard to do. Yeah, I heard that too. But I also had fights where I killed the Chieftain and he didn't drop Strong Body. So it's not guaranteed, but you can greatly increase your chances. But I distinctly remember only killing the Chieftain, nobody else, and it only dropped like 3 mutators, and Strong Body was not one of them. So you cannot guarantee it, but you can improve your chances. After the change, you can guarantee that? Oh, okay, cool. I did not know that. Okay, so you can guarantee it now. You can also cheese it, right? You can like kill as many people as you can without killing the chieftain, and then you can back out, retreat, and then you come back. Then you have less people to deal with, and you do it as many times as you have to until you can only kill the chieftain. That's also a thing. It's cheesy, but hey, that's my secret cheese. Yeah. I don't know, there's not much to the Vampire Lord other than that. It's just that He's not very good with a strength build. He's very strong with a focus build. You basically neglect strength for a long time. Until level 20 or something. Until you have like a lot of stuff. And then you figure out how much you need with concentrate up to actually get one full focus bar every turn. It depends on his strong versus also. And then whenever you get one full focus every turn, you get furious, and then you hit twice, you get more launcher damage, and you get like Action Man or something, or I don't know. You can also do something with focus stuff, right? What's another payoff for focus other than Revitalizer Action Man? He already has Furious. You could roll a Greatsword with Leeching doubles. Leeching double. Yeah, that would be a payoff. Sudden Strike? Maybe. For Sudden Strike you would need the stamina. But yeah. You could also do Sudden Strike builds instead of Action Man. Like go Revitalizer for healing. Eventually Revitalizer goes up to like 50% or something, right? So every turn you heal 50% of your health. It should be enough. Especially, yeah, it should be enough. Or you can trade Revitalizer for Leeching crits if you get good backstep setups or something. If you have good battlefield control, you can force crits. And then you go Sudden Strike and then Furious. And every turn you hit 3 times. And you get 10% more damage every turn. He's strong. He has a great sword. Everything with a great sword right now is very strong. Reflexive scan, yeah. What class is best with Duelist? Assassin. That's why they have it. Assassin usually has 4 attacks. Very often you can, if you don't have Murdering Sense, you can still force 4 attacks. Very often you have a crit ready at the first one, and you have bleeding crits. And then if you're close to full focus, you have like bleeding strikes. And Duelist lets you kill anything. If you have like, if you have 1 crit with bleeding crits and then like bleeding strikes from full focus from Throat Cutter, then you kill anything with Duelist. It just depends on how much stamina they have left and if they kill you back. Monk can do some fun scams with Duelist. Yeah, every Maul user can also be pretty strong with it. You slow them down, and if you stun them during the duel, they are no longer allowed to hit you back. So you slow them by 37 each hit, right? And you hit them like 3 times, and then they're stunned, and they can no longer retaliate. And I think you get, in a duel, you get the first 2 attacks or something. Like, you hit them the first time, and this initiates the duel, and you lead the duel with 1. Then you hit the second time, then they hit you back once, then you hit them a 3rd time, and 3 times is usually enough to stun them, I think. And then they no longer get the other 2 attacks, and you still get as many attacks as you have stamina for. You could also use Tyrant crits to get this done on the second. I think that's a bit overkill. Also, you need 2 crits for it. I think, right? You need like, the first one is usually from Patience, but you need a way to force more crits. To get a slow in the first turn. Oh, I see. Yeah, and then you slow them and then you crit them again. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Good point. Just jump backline, attack stun, and crit. Yeah. Yeah, Berserker's like, Berserk also lets you do cool stuff. You have more things to set him up, right? You could also consider dropping Concentrate for something else. And give him Improviser back. If you want more. Or you could just consider running a Swamp Shaman. Also. Right. Swamp Shaman OP as always. Very strong unit. Anything else about the Vampire Lord, or am I off the hook for the first one? Yeah, thanks. Okay, cool. You wanna play? Let's play.